package contains a small
Alright,
statue
thank
which
you.
has quite an affectionate value for me.
Away I go. Oh. Why do I suck at this game? Yo, what is up guys, it's Tarek1 here and welcome to another game review. This time I'm reviewing Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Now, this is not a sequel, nor is it a prequel to the first Mirror's Edge game, but it is a reboot of Mirror's Edge. And yeah, you probably won't realize it's a reboot until you probably get halfway through this game. Now, the story of Mirror's Edge Catalyst is that Faith Connors, a runner who has been in prison for the last 2 years, and then eventually is set free. As soon as you get out, she is back to doing her usual business of being a runner. But the more over time, the more missions she does for the runners and for helping people around the city, the more she suddenly gets involved with getting caught up with Krugersek. Trying to pronounce it properly is a bit of a pain. And they are the main enemies of the game. And obviously, over time, you've discovered that they are plotting something, something secret against the public that will change the entire world, and then you have to stop them. So, overall, the story of Mirror's Edge Catalyst was actually pretty decent compared to the first Mirror's Edge, which is basically about Faith trying to help prove her sister that she's innocent from being accused of a murder, but really it doesn't go into in-depth details about Faith's history or even about the people she helps, like the runners and stuff like that. It doesn't even go into anything about Krugersek either. Mirror's Edge Catalyst goes into a lot more detail about the runners, Krugersek, and even goes into more depth about Faith's history. And, well, but when you think about it, the first Mirror's Edge game felt more like just something that was made for fun, until it eventually got like a sort of a bit more popular over the years. I'm guessing DICE and EA thought we should make another one. But instead of making a sequel or a prequel, they decided to make a reboot. And honestly, I couldn't really think of another way of doing it, because the ending in the first Mirror's Edge game was a bit like, yeah, I don't know where you could go from there. This one, at least the ending sort of like clears things up. Well, it doesn't really clear things up, it more or less sets up a sequel, but at least the ending was understandable. And there is a few things that are different in this game, because since this is a reboot, they don't need to go off everything from the first Mirror's Edge game. So, of course, there's a few different things. There is, of course, a few returning characters from the first game, not many, but about two, excluding Faith herself. And of course there's a whole bunch of new characters too. Now most of these are just like sort of average characters, but some of them can be quite likable over time, because they can be quite fun to listen to over the conversations during the game. And obviously the main villain is pretty just your usual villain who's just here for the plot. Nothing really special about the main villain of Mirror's Edge Catalyst, but overall, I'd say the story was actually okay, especially when you play the missions. It does get a lot more interesting over time, and the characters are alright too. They're not the best, but they're not the worst either. I've seen far worse characters, and Mirror's Edge Catalyst's characters are alright. They are decent enough to get along with. Now, unlike the first Mirror's Edge game, Mirror's Edge Catalyst decides to go into the open world aspect. So basically it's now an open world first person parkour type game. And of course there's a few new things in this game. Not only is there a few new like moves that Faith can do, there's also even a upgrading system. Of course, if you're going to have an open world game, you're going to need an upgrading system. And of course, over time, this gives you more like abilities for Faith to use that you can unlock by doing and you can get points to unlock these skills by doing challenges and completing missions. And the progression system is actually okay, because most likely you don't need to do all the challenges and stuff like that just so you can unlock all of the abilities by the end of the game. And so most of these can be quite useful. Some are more helpful for when it comes to doing your parkour type skills, some are more useful for when it comes to combat, and some are useful for basically with new gear, as there is quite a few different things in this game. Like for example, there's a grappling hook that you can use in this game to help you get around areas that are just impossible to get through, and it makes you feel a little bit like Spider-Man in some ways, which is actually pretty fun. And you even have like a sort of a disrupt power which stuns your enemies for a few seconds, which can help in combat. And of course you have your other parkour skills which have been sort of improved as well. The mechanics of this game have been improved slightly compared to the first Mirror's Edge game, but the game overall still feels pretty damn decent, more or less. The way you move around and the parkour, it does feel very nice. Of course, and because of the open world aspect, there is the open world, I'm going to say, is pretty, for a Mirror's Edge game, I'm going to say it's pretty big, but for a usual open world game, it's pretty small. But since Mirror's Edge does concentrate on parkour, you don't need to have a game, a game that's going to have a big world for the way this game works. And of course, luckily it isn't, otherwise I think there'd be a bit too much. Because also this isn't going to be a very long open world type game either, because this game took me about 15 hours to complete, including doing some of the challenges. And of course, it was actually fair fun to travel around most of the time, and the world itself looks really amazing. The graphics in this game, or well, looking at the world around you, it looks amazing, just about as good as the first Mirror's Edge game. So it's nice to see that they haven't done anything to make it not look like what it was in the first Mirror's Edge game, as once again everything all looks clean and everything, but really it's all hiding a disturbing secret somewhere. And of course, but the graphics themselves, when it comes to certain areas of the game, aren't as exactly being done very well. Like there was a moment in a cutscene at some point in the game where I saw that the background wasn't as done as good as I thought it could have been. It could have been done a bit better with some of the background and stuff, but overall the graphics were okay in this game. They're not groundbreaking, but at least the world is amazing to look at. So yeah, overall I'd say like the mechanics and the world itself have been done particularly well. Now, this game does have challenges, and these are probably some of the worst challenges I've ever done in an open world type game. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean these challenges are bad, because of course I'm not used to games like this, parkour type games. The Mirror's Edge games are the only ones I've ever technically played in this genre. But these challenges could have been a little bit easier, because I mean, they were different. Most of these challenges were time-based, and I'm really bad at time-based challenges. Like for example, there's dash, which is get from one side of the world to the other. Drop deliveries, which are basically get an object to a certain area in the amount of limited time. And there's two types of these as well. And of course, there's one where you need to help out one of your runner mates. You need to distract Krugersek while they're hacking to a system. And of course, these are my more annoying challenges. There's also these little side things too. Little side semi-missions called grid nodes and Krugersek communication towers. The Krugersek communication towers are decent enough, as you just have to disable the tower and then escape Krugersek. That's enjoyable. And grid nodes are probably the best part of the entire game. It's basically just a very puzzling climb to do. And it was really well done was the grid nodes. I really did like the way the grid nodes were done. They were very decent to do. Even if I did fail a couple of times, they were still fun to do. And of course, the main missions and the side missions themselves have also been planned out very nicely too. I like the way they're played out. In fact, they were just about as good as the first Mirror's Edge game, the way the missions and the side missions were planned out. Yeah, despite they were pretty damn short and could be done in probably like 5 minutes or so. But hell, the main missions in Mirror's Edge, there's like a speedrun challenge to get them done in less than 8 minutes, so shouldn't really be a surprise. So yeah, but the challenges, they were just a really big big pain. I hate challenges where I have to do them in limited times because I always just get really annoyed with every little mistake that will affect the outcome. As you really have to make sure you are perfect on these time challenges. It's one slight mistake and you're done for. Not only that, there's also collectibles to find throughout the world too, like grid leaks, documents, recordings, and these are okay to get because they do give you a slight amount of XP, so it actually is kind of worth getting them. I didn't get them all, but hell, that's because I wanted to play the game and stuff, and I really feel like it wouldn't affect the game overall, even if I did collect them all. But yeah, overall, the way the missions were done and the side missions were done pretty damn well, along with the Kruger set communication towers, and the grid nodes are practically the best part of the entire game. But the challenges are a bit of a pain in the ass, and really they could have been made a little bit more better to make it a little bit more easier for people like me who could really struggle with the game. Now, the enemies in this game are a little bit different compared to the first Mirror's Edge game, since this game doesn't rely on using guns whatsoever. As in the first Mirror's Edge game, you could pick up guns and use them to your advantage, but then there was an achievement in the first Mirror's Edge game where you shouldn't use one whatsoever throughout the entire game. So the developers decided we should go more upon on this achievement and just not be just make you not allowed to pick up guns whatsoever. I think this is a good move because then your combat skill area relies more on the melee type section, of course, and the enemies in this game rely more on melee too, as there's only one type of enemy in this game that does rely on using guns, which are the enforcers, but then that's it. You have your shock enforcers, and then you have sentinels, which are pretty much the mini boss type enemies. And yeah, the enemies in this game center more around melee combat than the first Mirror's Edge game, and I think that was a pretty decent a good thing as well. And also you can see the health above their heads too, which is to give you a clear advantage of how much health they have left, whereas in the first Mirror's Edge game you just have to kick their asses as much as you can until they died. So yeah, the combat is alright, it's pretty decent compared to the first Mirror's Edge game where you had to figure stuff out on your own. This one is okay, and the combat was actually decent, and it's not only just Kruger sector to worry about, there's also drones you have to worry about as well along the way. And there's one last thing that is actually very helpful for me, especially in this game, is that the fact is, in the first Mirror's Edge game, it was really difficult for me to figure out where the hell to go to find my objective. In this game, the developers created something called Runner's Vision, which is to help you out where to go, basically. If you're stuck, you can basically activate Runner's Vision and it'll tell you where to go. Some parts of missions, it'll deactivate itself so it can make it a little bit more challenging, which I think was a bit of a good thing for people who've played Mirror's Edge before. But for newcomers, I think it was a good thing to add Runner's Vision because then people know where they're going. So, overall, Mirror's Edge Catalyst was actually a fair, decent reboot of the first Mirror's Edge game. I don't think it was better or worse than the Mirror's Edge game. It felt pretty much just as decent. Like, the story was a little bit more explanatory, and there was a few more things in it. And of course, this is an open world type game. And honestly, overall, this game was actually pretty decent. So, yeah, overall, I'm gonna give Mirror's Edge Catalyst a 7 out of 10. So yeah, that is my review of Mirror's Edge Catalyst. A fairly decent reboot of the first Mirror's Edge game, and I think he actually played out pretty well, apart from a few annoying things. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Leave a like, subscribe, comment down below what you think is right or wrong with the game, and I shall see you guys in the next random video.